Welcome to the Zero Input Agriculture podcast. Today, I'm talking to Professor Porcupine, who is a really stunning example of what a young person without access to their own land can do in order to prepare themselves and get involved in the crop breeding and low input agriculture community. So, Professor Porcupine, can you tell us a bit about yourself and how you came to be involved in this kind of speciality?
Well, I'm 23 years old, and it all started from wild edibles, foraging. One thing leads to another, from wild edibles all the way to crop breeding, land raised gardening, permaculture, and all those wonderful things. My brain kind of exploded towards the end stage. Yeah, it's a lot.
Have you always been interested in like nature and biology and farming, or did that kind of happen later?
A little bit. It happened towards later. I remember in high school there was a horticulture class, and there was like one student who told me, "It's like, look at these cool plants and stuff." I'm like, hold on, plants. I love plants. I eat plants. Let me talk. Let me get interested in this. And it all started from a high school class about horticulture. It's not even like edible plants; it's just landscaping and stuff. But I was
Mm.
like, "Ooh, this is interesting." One thing leads to another. All right, let's start wild edibles. Then one thing leads to another. Wild edibles leads to permaculture because I'm starting to understand the natural systems. I'm like, every single day I'm outside foraging. I'm learning more about what nature communicates, what nature teaches me. I'm listening into everything because believe it or not, this may sound crazy, but plants talk to me and I talk to them simply by communicating. The plant exists. It communicates to me it has three leaves. It communicates to me that it's in flowering. Those kind of things. It communicates to me that the fruit is about to be ripe. Those kind of things. And I notice, okay, that's green fruit. Don't eat that. I eat it. Plant communicates to me that bad taste, not ripe. Wait, you stupid fool. Be patient. And that's ways the plant communicates to me. And me, by saving the seeds of wild edibles that I like, guess what happens in the ecosystem? When I spit out the seeds that tasted good, those are the seeds that continue. And all the bad tasting fruits, they die off.
hmm So,
Anyways, yeah.
you said you're living in an apartment, and but
Yeah.
you have a forested landscape around you. So, what kind of species have you been interacting with in that area?
Ooh, yeah, it's a lot. All sorts of different kinds of wild edibles in North America. I'm in Maryland in an apartment complex, and not too far away from me, there's a forest, and there's also landscape trees all around, the apartment complex.
Mm.
So those kind of things, grocery store parking lots also have landscape trees. And I'm wondering, I realized, all right. So the landscapings, there's also a lot of plants that are used in landscaping that are not necessarily like edible, but a lot of them turn out to be actually edible. Like, for example, amelanchiers and Kusa dogwoods. Those are two fantastic wild edibles that are technically not like wild, but pretty much they are to me in the landscaping. Then in the forest ecosystems, I find all the other different kinds of plants that escape. Forest is like a really awesome mix of just diverse, all sorts of different kind of plants. For me, I find shishu a lot. I find sweet cicely, and different types of forests have different types of ecosystems. I also find Kusa dogwood escapees into the forest. Mulberries I find there, raspberries, wineberries, all sorts of those kind of different crops. I also find a lot of garlic mustard and the crow garlic, Allium vanille. Those kind of crops.
Mm. And I see your
Oh.
approach to things as being really advanced because you figured out that there's a continuum between just foraging things that are completely wild through to the other
Mhm,
extreme where you have extremely controlled environment with very domesticated crops. But there's all sorts of
mhm, mhm.
steps along the way as an intermediate. So have you been influencing the forest around you to change the species composition?
A little bit, but now you're starting to get into gardening because, see, foraging and gardening, they're like the same exact thing, just on two different sides of the spectrum. So as you forage, you're gonna start wondering, okay, this amaranth or this raspberry I forage. I like this raspberry. I'm gonna do everything to make sure this raspberry continues growing for me. So I can come back to it year after year after year. Oh, that's the first step of actually gardening, maintaining the plants that you actually find. And then that leads to the next step. All right, now that I'm maintaining these plants, maybe I can introduce something new and add it on. Maybe instead of having just red raspberries or wine berries or black raspberries, I also add in some yellow raspberries or something like that. And then I let that select. And then from that thing, maintaining also gardening, maybe pruning raspberries, because I've realized when you prune raspberries, depending on which type they are, they actually yield a lot more berries. I've even
Mm.
tried this out myself. I pruned the raspberries. I'm like, oh wow, it actually produced a lot more. So that's where I took, all right, I have no garden. I'm gonna garden with the plants that are already growing. Let's try it. Yeah.
Um, Now, you also talk about, so a lot of people would have heard of guerrilla gardening as a kind of intermediate between wild foraging and having
Hmm.
completely cultivated beds, but you also have an idea of what you call ninja gardening. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that term. Can you explain what that means to you?
Ninja gardening, I mean, what I don't like about the term guerrilla gardening, it feels like there's always a war aspect to it, where it's like I have to fight something,
Mm,
versus let's relax. I like ninja gardening because, it's not like it's out in the open. You're like a ninja. You come in, you do your thing, you leave. That's it, done. You've influenced the landscape, you've influenced the force, and that's that. There's no warfare mindset behind it. That's why I really like the term ninja garden. I guess you could say they both kind of mean the same thing because in both you're gardening on land you don't own. But I'm
mm.
just saying, if I can forage on this like public land, public forest no one cares about, why can't I also plant species that I like as well and garden them? Of course I can. And that's basically what I do.
I guess with guerrilla gardening, if you stumble onto somebody's guerrilla garden, you kind of
Hmm.
feel unwelcome. Whereas with ninja gardening, you don't even realize that the things you're seeing around you were the result of somebody's influence on the landscape.
Yeah, it is. It is very blended in actually,
Mm,
because I'm just mostly maintaining the wild edibles that they are. I mean, I guess you could also say there's another term for this: eco gardening,
mhm,
eco culture, which forager Sam Thayer was talking about in his book. But that's also like forest gardening, where you just garden the forest, because there's a lot of really amazing wild adapted plants that are perfect for forest environment, where they thrive in a somewhat semi-shaded environment. Believe it or not, lots of like crops, you plant them out like in the field where it's tilled all the time, they don't do so well. Versus the same wild edibles, you plant them underneath a tree, they do so much better.
mm,
And believe it or not, I've even heard from David the Good. That's another gardening channel I watch on YouTube. He was talking about how some people even planted pineapples under trees and they were able to like up the hardiness zone of crops just by planting them under trees because the environment is sheltered. It's a microclimate.
mhm.
Boom! That's like a whole nother topic about with permaculture and stuff. It's like everything starts to connect. It's so awesome.
Yeah, you I know from interacting with you that you also recently did something that was a more classical guerrilla gardening experiment in a few patches around your area
Yeah.
with I think you had maize and squash and beans.
The funny things about the squash, they're not there no more. The deer had their fun time.
Yeah, so t tell me about your experience with that, because not everything you try in life is going to be successful. Sometimes you have to harvest information about what doesn't work. So, yeah, t tell us a bit more about that, more guerrilla gardening. Like, how did you locate potential areas, and were some more successful than others? Like, what are the criteria that seem to work in your favor?
Well, first thing is I was already foraging, so I'm looking at places that could actually be potential garden spots while I'm foraging. So
Mm,
I'm walking around, all right, I see a place that has somewhat not many trees. Maybe I can prune out some of the trees in this area, like some of the limbs, and clear out more light. Those are kind of things I started thinking about as I'm walking. But I also checked on Google Maps around my area and started to see, maybe there's already a little spot in a forest I could go to that already has like a bit more open sunlight. Now,
mm,
I'm in an apartment complex in a suburban neighborhood, so there aren't like too many forests, but there are somewhat like places that are more abandoned, neglected. Those are the
mm,
kind of places you want to go to. Because those kind of places, if they're abandoned, neglected, who's going to care if you start planting, corn or something, whatever?
mm,
Weeds are already growing there. It's already like self evident that it's so neglected. Those are the spots that you could actually use. But that's how I find my locations. I use Google Maps and I actually walk there, visit there. And then I also take pictures of it. And I compare, all right, let's see. Why is this spot clear? Oh, that's right. There's a lawnmower that comes here and shit. Okay, that's not going to be a good spot for a garden.
mm,
How about the edge, the forest edge where the lawnmower doesn't mow? Maybe that could be a spot. Oh, right. There's deer all over this area. I've planted it. I figured out, okay, deer eat everything here. All right. And then I found another spot in the forest that was covered with blackberries, like the whole spot. And this is the spot where I started planting corn into. The whole spot was covered with blackberries. I'm like, wow, that's going to be a mess. But I looked at the spot, looked up in the sky. Whoa, there's actual sunlight. There isn't a lot of trees blocking here. There's a lot of sunlight. I have a lot of sun loving crops like corn, squash, beans, and all sorts of melons. Those are sun loving crops. Okay, this could actually work. So, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to clear out all the blackberries. I don't know. I'm crazy. I don't know how I found the energy to do this, but I'm like, I want land so badly, so fuck it. I'm gonna start clearing out the whole blackberries with a pruner, with gloves, and that's it. Like literally, those are my tools that I can carry in my backpack and garden. So I bring that out. I start pruning it. And since I learned about chop and drop from permaculture, what I did is I would go bend down to the blackberry, the stem, the bottom of it, prune it right there, pull the whole blackberry because that's actually an easier way to clear it out. And I grab that blackberry and stack it onto other blackberries. I clear out a little section one day, come back to the next day. Those blackberries that laid on top of the blackberries made the blackberries beneath them easier to clear out since they
Mm,
block the sunlight.
yep.
And I kept going step by step by step until I actually cleared out of place. This isn't one of those things that's all going to happen in one day, done. There's going to be gradual work. You keep expanding places and you kind of see, you kind of feel around. And then I'm like, okay, I actually cleared out space. I was surprised in myself. No way I was actually able to clear out space. So then I started clearing out more things. And then I started smoothing out the soil a bit. There was actually a pot of soil someone threw out, like a whole bunch of pot. I'm like, jackpot. If I start bringing all that soil in, maybe I can start filling in and building beds. This is not the way I gardened before because this is like my real first gardening experience. Because the other times were just more like spreading seeds somewhere and hoping they fall. This is where I specifically cleared the soil to plant some things in there. So all the plants that I collected, all the seeds from grocery store and all my wild foraging adventures. I had a big amassment sort of different kinds of vegetable to try. I knew that if I just try one crop, the animal who likes it, boom, my garden's over. So I
Yeah.
decided to try a whole bunch of different kind of crops. I had more like salad greens, amaranthacea, different kind of crops I even got from like garden centers and those kind of things. Tomatoes I tried, tomatillos, physalis, corn, watermelon, melons, even the horn African melons. Then
Mm,
I had squashes. Then I had acorn squash, pepper squash, all sorts of different kind of vegetables that I tried. And on top of that, I also tried wild edibles, which are a lot of the lamb squarters, those kind of things, and
mm,
mints. Even
mm.
like the grocery store mints. I got like an Indian basil from the grocery store, from the Indian grocery store. It's like a whole pack of basil seeds. Good luck trying to like that is so cost efficient. It's like seven like in almost a pound, like half a pound of like basil seeds for like $2. Do you realize how cost efficient that is for basil seeds? And now I have basil seeds that I can just willingly throw around and actually have in this plant something. Believe
Mm,
it or not, something actually grew out of that.
mm,
But going back to it, I started planting the crops. I planted squash, I planted corn, I planted beans, all sorts of different kind of beans. I'm like, wow, my plants are actually growing. This is awesome. I knew my plants could do it. I knew the grocery store plants could do it. The seeds, because they're strong cotyledons. I've noticed that
mhm,
the maximas germinate way much more stronger than the pepals. The
mm,
corns also germinated very, very well. I was like, dang, that's amazing. And then the problem came. Deer came.
mm.
As soon as they discovered, it's like, deer, they went through the forest as well. They're like, whoa, what's this place? It's been cleared out. Ooh, this is nice. I'm gonna go check it out. That's what the deer are thinking. It's like, ooh, what is this new strange plant? Let me take a bite. Hump. They bite the little squash leaf, and then that's that.
Mm.
The whole joint is gone. All my squash plants, all the little seeds. I'm like, you know what? I planted like, let's say, the spacing requirements regular gardeners do. I threw that all out the window. I just planted like literally, I guess an inch away a seed, an inch away a seed. It's not even grid. It's just all a mess. Plant as much
Mm.
as I can. Even though all the seeds germinate, I was like thinking, okay, maybe deer will eat some and they'll leave me the ones that survive, right? Nah, they ate every single one. They are vigilant. And on top of the rabbits also came on through. I'm like, okay. So squash, melons, those kind of crops are not gonna do. But for some reason, out of everything that failed, the corn was somehow still growing. I also
Mm.
planted tomatoes. Those grew, but then I realized rabbits actually eat tomato leaves. I'm like, damn,
Mm.
either these rabbits have no food at all or they're desperate. Like,
Mm.
tomatoes, tomato leaves, they're toxic. They have the
Yeah,
solanine in it.
they smell, they stink.
Uh-huh. But that just kind of proved to me that, oh my, the animals around my forest ecosystem, nobody feeds them. They probably ate all the food. It makes sense because when I look at the wild ecosystem, the ones I don't garden, all I see is garlic mustard, garlic, maybe some shishu. Those are all very strong smelling plants that are very strongly flavored. Garlic mustard is garlicky, spicy, and even bitter.
Mm.
Garlic, the wild garlic, alum vanille crow garlic, that one's delicious, but they don't like garlic smells. And they don't like shishu because it's, I guess, way too minty spicy and a
Mm.
little bit astringent in some cultivars.
Do you
But
suspect that there are other crops you haven't tried yet that might be even more resistant to
maybe
the
I was
herbivores?
I was thinking of mint because I'm thinking, man, I could have had some like awesome mint and enjoy good teas, but I only had like a little bit of seeds that I had from like a little gardening center. And mint seeds, they're so tiny. I'm like,
Mm,
how am I gonna direct sow that? Ugh. Because I'm like, I just spilled the whole packet in one spot and all of them just couldn't germinate. I'm like,
yeah.
darn it. And I don't know anyone else who could give me a mint plant to take a cutting from because I would have done that. That probably actually would have helped me and maintain those things. But those are all things I learned. But for some of the most weirdest reason, the corn legit survived. I don't know because the deer tried it. They bit the tops of the corn. They must have not liked the texture and left it alone. And
Mm.
the funny part is, after the deer and the animals legit ate everything, I just gave up on the garden. I'm like, I'm done. But that's the funny thing that happened. The animals, they could kind of sense that I was done gardening. Oh man, this human is not planting no more goodies for me. Oh, I lost interest. And boom, maybe they left it alone, and that's how the corn could survive. Because I've heard from people that as soon as the corn starts maturing, the deer get real interested and eat that.
Mm.
Maybe they have never seen corn or something. I don't know. Because no one in my neighborhood planted corn like that at all. It's like, what is that grass? The deer are probably thinking. They tried it, tastes bad. Ugh, doesn't produce anything. Yeah, and that was the only way I actually managed to get corn. Even though my corn was very poorly pollinated. One cob only gave me one seed,
Yeah. Um,
but another cob gave me a bit more. It was a popcorn type. Another one gave me two other types of seeds. So it's not a lot. In total, maybe I got like 20 corn seeds out of like, let's just say 100 seeds I've planted. But at least it gave me an experience and I got to actually see how corn grows. So everything I learned off the field, I put into my notes, and now I know more about corn.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Do you suspect that
Hmm.
there's this kind of no man's land of like these wild foraged crops that have potential for cultivation and maybe even selective breeding? That
Oh,
they
a lot. Every single wild edible you can think of, that's a symbiosis relationship you can develop with it. And
have
that's domestication, if you
have
think
you
about it.
have you got any particular wild edibles that you think would be great candidates to start in
Mm,
your area? Like
ah,
what ones stand out?
the list is going to be too long. But there's a
Try
lot.
keep it to
All right,
three. Like keep it to three.
all right. One, because there's also a lot of trees. So
Mm,
there's a lot of fruit trees like persimmons, pawpaws, those kind of things. Even viburnums. Some viburnums have pretty good fruits.
mm,
But in terms of my top, I guess three, that's going to be hard to limit. One, May apples. That's a really awesome, cold, hardy, tropical, low growing herb that makes a really awesome tropical fruit that tastes so divine. I was
mhm.
like, damn, that's a really awesome wild edible. That is worth cultivating. And guess what? When I did researching, it's Podophyllum peltatum. There's also other species of podophyllum like the red Himalayan mayapple. So there's yellow mayapple, red mayapple. Crossing together, what do you think's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one crop. Two crop is the Amphira, Amphicarpea bractea, which is the hog peanut. It's the little tiny bean I found. I found them actually not too long ago, like 2 weeks ago. I was like, damn, I actually found that wild edible. It exists. It's real. It's in the forest. No way. I was like thinking, nah, that wild edible is elusive. It doesn't exist where I live. Look carefully. And I actually found it. These are little tiny beans in pods. They're actually closely related, not too far away phylogenetically, to soybeans. So some researchers were saying maybe they could cross. But regardless, it's a bean that makes aerial flowers, aerial pods, underground pods. So it's both a bean pod and like a peanut at the same time. And the
That is
peanut
so
is the bigger
wild.
it is wild. Those are wild edibles. They're wild. That's what they are. Yeah. But basically, since I couldn't really comfortably dig out a whole lot of things, I just harvested the aerial pods. I'm thinking, okay, this could be a future breeding project I can do later.
Mm.
And guess what I found out today? I found out there's a Chinese species of hog peanut. Ooh, another hybrid potential partner. If I get those Chinese seeds, bring them in with my American seeds, crossing together, what could happen? Maybe some awesome politically magic like quinoa and the other quinoa species. How did
Mhm.
quinoa seeds get a lot bigger from the lamb squatter seeds? Validity. It's really awesome. So
Mm.
maybe something like that if it's genetically diverse enough. The wider crosses, the wider things happen. And the third crop that I found is the wild chayote. I'm surprised because no other wild edibles expert at all even talks about it. and it's a wild edible crop that exists. Sikios angulatos. And believe it or not, the cultivated domesticated chayote is also a sikios. It used to be Sicheum idule. That's the
Mm.
old scientific name. Phylogenetic trees actually revealed that it's closely related to Sikios angulatos, which is the burr cucumber. I call it the wild chayote. But basically, both of them have now been placed in the Sikios genus. So thus, those are now cross potential. No one has thought about that. I look at all the other wild plant experts, they don't mention that Sikios angulatus, the burr cucumber, the wild chayote at all. I'm like, how do you not? I went out, I found this plant. Wow, because I was searching chayotes. I tried the leaves because I know how cucurbitaceae toxins work. Basically, if it's not bitter, if the leaves are not bitter, the shoots are not bitter, it's edible. So when I walked up to the plant, the wild chayote, the first one I encountered was bitter. I was like, ew, this is toxic. I found another one. Let's try it again. And boom, I finally found a super delicious edible green. I was like, damn, how did the deer not find this one? I found a jackpot. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Because this is the forest that hunters hunted. I live in Maryland. Yeah, there's not much like gun hunting. I guess it's more bow hunting. But
Hmm.
regardless, that probably explains why the chayote plant even existed in the first place, the non-bitter forms. Because you know damn well the deer, they would have ate all the non-bitter ones and left me all the bitter ones. I'm like, ew. So I'm very glad that there's less deer there. But I found the non-bitter chayote, the wild one. I ate the leaves. I just couldn't stop helping myself from eating the greens. They were so good.
You
And they
you
tasted.
know to be a little bit cautious with the new forage species. That
Mhm,
there's always that temptation of taking the first bite and thinking this is delicious, and
mhm,
eating a huge handful, and then later figuring out that there's some
mhm, mhm.
slower effect that isn't as obvious.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I get that exactly because the wild edible experts, when they're talking about for completely absolute beginners, they talk about just if you completely discover a new plant, take a little bite and come back the next day,
Yeah,
one bite at a time, and slowly up them. A lot
yeah.
of the expert foragers have already talked about that. But here's the thing: I tried the sichos. I tried the chayotes. I ate the fruit, no problem. First time, excelente. I've also eaten a lot of squash leaves from the little squashes that the deer didn't find that I planted, and they were delicious. And then I realized that hold on, this tastes a lot like squash. So then, yeah, I just started eating it. I couldn't help myself. It was so good. Because I realized I recognized the taste. It tasted just like squash leaves, but with improved texture and not spikiness.
Hmm.
Ooh, that's like exactly what I wanted. Hmm.
I just know from my own bitter experience, I foraged a native Australian
Hmm.
fig from my rainforest creek once, and I'd eaten a
Hmm.
couple of them before, like selected them really carefully one at a time, and
Hmm.
yeah, they were nice. But I made the mistake of going back and filling a bowl and eating all of them at
Hmm.
once, and I think there was a decent number of underripe ones in there because the latex
Ooh.
pickled my liver, and I felt like a garbage truck
Hmm.
for the next
Hmm.
week. So yeah, there's
I've actually had a similar experience with yew berries. I was told yew berries were edible. I identified the plant and only eating the arrow. You can't eat the
hmm.
seed. That shit
Yeah,
is
seeds are
toxic.
very
Will kill you.
toxic.
Hmm. So I ate the arrows. I'm like, this arrow tastes bad. Like, no, the effects they gave me were bad, but it tasted good. I'm like, okay, I eat one, I eat two, I eat three, then I ate a whole bowl.
Yeah.
And then I had the worst toilet problems. It was so bad. That digestive issue was just, oh gosh. I was like,
Yeah.
never again. I was so bad. I'm like, nope. I don't care what other people say. That is not edible no more.
So yeah, the usual disclaimer to anyone thinking about getting into foraging wild edibles, do your research, be
Oh,
cautious.
absolutely.
Ideally, learn from experts who have been eating particular things in your area for a long time. Because yeah, when you're doing it on your own and kind of learning as you go, it doesn't
Mhm.
always go perfectly. It isn't always delicious and nutritious. Sometimes you can get into trouble.
Oh, I was just gonna say in terms of like wild edible, there's like a whole website of different kinds of experts. The ones I trust are Samuel Thayer. He has excellent, fantastic wild edible books, and Green Dean at Eat the Weeds, another
Mm.
fantastic resource.
Yeah.
Those two are just absolute fantastic experts. I definitely trust their information. And plants for a future. Anytime you find out the scientific name of a plant, search up the plants for a future and use your critical thinking.
Mm.
Do your research. Absolutely. I couldn't emphasize it enough because there are some plants out there that will and can't kill you. And if you're just starting out, you might not tell the difference easily.
Well, that gets on to the next thing I wanted to talk about.
Mhm.
You have been doing so much amazing work on researching Just about every crop that I can imagine. Like you have been
Yeah.
able to gather together resources that even I didn't realize are out there in the world. So, did you want to talk about that as an activity that somebody who doesn't yet
Oh,
have access to land can pour their energy into?
oh, absolutely. Every single day is an opportunity to learn. So that was my attitude with it. I'm like, okay, I have no land, so fuck it. I'm gonna learn as much as I can to bring that dream us closer. Because I realized that eventually I might get land, but I might as well knock out all the research while I'm at it, while I'm here with no land. So that's what I kept learning. I kept learning and learning and learning. It's basically like an everyday grind, if you will. But like I love it, and it doesn't feel like grind. It's just fun. It's just what I do. It's just the thing. Because if you don't find anything else to do, like if you're just doing nothing, you can't do nothing. You're always going to be doing something. So you might as well research plants. But in terms of just how researching it started, I started actually from the cautions of wild edibles because I know I've heard wild edibles they look alike. All right, so I'm gonna research and make sure I know my shit. So I learned it. I researched every single crop, trying to look at all the lookalikes, trying to identify their differences. That's where that research energy really came from. And just imagine when I started applying that super, like, extreme dedication of research rigor from wild edibles to now domesticated edibles. I treated them like the same thing as a natural extension. So there's a lot of perspective, an interesting perspective I come from all those kind of things.
I've
And then,
I've seen some of the documents that you put together on different plant families or crop genuses. The
mhm.
work on taxonomy and like how the different species are related to each other.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, phylogenetic trees
tell
are
me what tell us
fun.
more about that because I've seen it.
Oh
I've seen these enormous documents you put together. So yeah, just tell us a bit more
yeah,
about how you gathered together all of that information.
it is just an absolutely like I'm so blessed that I live in this time right now where there are so many awesome, amazing plant researchers who compile all this stuff. All I have to do is just go out and look for it. How I actually look at it, first time I just use the internet. Like the internet is absolutely oh man, it is a blessing that I have access to the internet. I would have not learned. I even realized that the internet has a lot of stuff from like colleges and like universities. I'm like, oh, I could just get this shit for free. I don't need no university.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in terms of specifically phylogenetic trees, what I'm talking about. What is a phylogenetic tree? It's basically a family tree for the species of crop you're researching. In a nutshell, that's what it is. So it shows you all the crops that are related. It kind of it started very interesting because I'm like, okay, this is a bean, this is another bean, this is another bean, there's a tree bean. Whoa, these are all part of the bean family. All right, show me in detail how closely related they are and what they can cross with. That's a very important thing. But from just phylogenetic trees, when I look at crops, I see which ones are closely related. I first measure them by what I know can cross. And that gives me a guideline of how close the relationships are within the phylogenetic tree. In terms of, let's just say, squash, I've realized that with mentor pollination and mentor grafting, you can legit actually hybridize all the squash species. All the characteristic ID traits are fluid. Because I've realized when I was learning the ID traits for each species, I realized that they're all subjective and they're kind of fluid. So if every squash species can hybridize, that's crazy. So that kind of shows me the potential. Now, from the YouTubers I've watched, like even David the Good, he was talking about in Park Rose permaculture. They were talking about how if you plant one species of squash, like Cucurbita pepo, Cucurbita machata, Cucurbita maxima, in your garden situation, they won't cross. However, there's a little cool trick called mentor pollination, where if you mix the pollens together, aha, now you can get them to cross. And that reflipped the way I saw the phylogenetic trees. All it takes, and I even did this myself before the deer discovered squash, I actually had a chance to pollinate female flowers. So I grabbed petal pollen and maxima pollen and mixed those two pollens and painted the maxima female flower. And guess what? Fruit started to form. I actually tricked the maxima flower to accept foreign species pollen. I did it. It worked. Unfortunately, some deer or something knocked the fruit off. I was like, darn it. Oh, wow. But it proved to me that what I actually learned online actually applies to the real life world with my own eyes. I actually saw it. That effect is real. And then I started realizing, oh man, so the stuff researchers researched on the internet is real. It actually applies. It's
Mm.
useful.
I know as well you've been doing some really interesting work saving seeds, particularly from really diverse grocery stores. And then you've
I did
been
both.
then you seem to be very generous in sharing that material with other people because not everyone has. Well, if you go into any like Indian grocery store in any part of the world, they'll have
Or
this really
Asian grocery.
random selection of things that they happen to have
Mhm.
got their hands on.
Yeah. That was right there. I basically treated grocery stores like another forest or wild ecosystem to explore. So every single seed or thing I saw in the grocery store, I'm like, can I save seeds from that? Can I save seeds from that? Can I save seeds from you? And every single crop, I took a picture, took the name of it, and started researching the scientific name of it. All right, now I understand what this crop is. All right, we're gonna put it there. And I did that with every single seed that I found. There were so many different kinds of APACA seeds in Indian grocery stores, like the black cumin and another species of black cumin, both sold as black cumin. Talk about confusion inside even the Indian grocery store. There's Shah, there's Kala Jira black cumin, and then there's Shah Jira black cumin. And then the Indian store and this like a different brand confuses and switches them both, even though they're completely not different species, but even different genuses, genera. Talk about that. So I had to work through all those specifics. And then I found out, okay, I can say seeds for that, say seeds for that, say seeds for that. And then I realized, hold on, there's this awesome online forums of plant treaters and plant breeders on going to seed. I started talking on going to seed, trading with many different kinds of people, and I realized not everyone has access to amazing international grocery stores like Indian grocery stores, the Asian grocery stores, Lotte, H Mart, Indian Bazaar, Patel Brothers, those kind of stores. Great Wall, those are other different kinds of stores. All international kind of stores, and thus you're going to get international kinds of seeds.
Hmm.
Boom. I knew someone out there could actually use those seeds. Meaning, if I just buy the grocery store, I can save some for myself and spread the rest to other people. And they may have seeds I don't have access to. Just think
Hmm.
about how awesome that is. And we're able to trade germplasm, seeds, different kinds of varieties. And boom, every single melon I bought, I'm like, that's an interesting melon. Let me try it. Ooh, I like this one. And I learned about each variety of melon as well. When I started learning about cucumis mellow, I started learning about all the different kinds of varieties that exist. I even went deeper and learned about the different cultivar groups that they have. Believe it or not, in the Indian store, there was a melon that's called a dosakai melon that's not sweet and it's used like a vegetable. A non-sweet melon. I'm thinking, all right, that's not going to taste good. Who's going to eat a non-sweet melon? Talk about like any, I guess, like the typical American. They like cantaloupes and maybe honeydews. Like in the typical grocery store, that's all you got: cantaloupes and honeydews. In the Indian grocery store, you got dosakai melons, non-sweet melons that are perfect for like baisans or those kind of things.
Mm. No,
And you use them in cooking.
I have to acknowledge you opened my eyes again to the potential of Cucumis mallow as a species. So that's one of the reasons I've scraped together as much diversity as I could over this side of the planet, and I'm doing the variety
Oh
trial
man,
this year. And yeah,
I'm so happy for you.
I'd kind of written them off previously as not really being well suited to my particular part of the world. And yeah, I'm going to give them another chance, and I think they can fill an empty niche in my system that I'd just kind of given up on.
That's gonna be awesome. I'm so glad that like the seeds I got from the grocery store inspired and gave you hope to try it again. Cause man, Kukima's mellow, those melons, I love melons. They're like one of my favorite crops to forage for in the grocery store while paying money. But yeah.
Well, it's actually part of the crop
Mhm,
breeding kind of social ecosystem that's a real weak point is people who coordinate different breeders because we crop breeders tend to
mhm,
be very solitary kind of people. We often just end up in our garden working on our own projects. And
mm,
it's very common for people get to the end of their like growing career and they don't have the energy to like farm anymore. And all of that work just gets lost, like all those years of like improving a crop, and it doesn't get connected to the next generation of growers. And I really wonder
hey.
if people, both at the very early phase in
Mhm,
their development, like you, and also
mhm,
people at the end of their phase, like where they might still have the land, but they don't have the energy to farm it as much as they used to, they're the people
mhm.
who could be doing this social networking and helping seeds get from one farmer to another, from one grower to another.
Absolutely. There's a lot of different seed stores. I remember if you heard of the Baker Creek Seed Company, there are
Hmm.
apparently like a lot of different kinds of seeds that were like going to go extinct, like the variety was just going to be discontinued.
Mm.
Like that's it. The last farmer had the last seeds. Someone discovered it somewhere. Just think about how many of those stories exist for many different kinds of crops people have tried and just died off.
Mm.
So there is a good thing to like preserve different kinds of rare heirlooms that people have garnered. Yeah, and those kind of things. But absolutely having a really good system, because think about it. I really stand on the giants of shoulders or shoulders of giants. A lot of people who came before me who have discovered a lot of amazing things like Michurin, Joseph Losthouse. There's a lot of amazing plant breeders that I've learned a lot from. I'm
Mm,
very thankful for the Going to Seed organization because it's my way to actually connect with a lot of these other older plant breeders who are in their more like later stage who have a lot of information to pass down. And through that, I'm actually able to trade with people through the
mm.
forums. The forums are absolutely a blessing to have because you're actually able to interact with people in that way
And yeah,
in seed trade.
I was
Mhm.
really interested in talking to you to demonstrate to the audience, who anyone who's in a similar position to you but hesitating to get started because they think they have to be like a Joseph Lofthouse from like the first day.
Oh, no, no,
There's
no. How did
many
those
other things
experts?
you can do.
Absolutely. I'm just thinking to the our audience, your audience has got to ask this question. How did those experts start in the first place? Not
Hmm.
every expert is going to document exactly when they started.
Yeah.
And then because of that, it kind of feels like a hard topic to approach. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't get so knowledgeable from day one. It was a lot of hard grind work of research, like for 5 years straight of constant research and research and research and researching, learning as much as I can. I was like a sponge or a vacuum for information, sucking it up everywhere it is, finding all the gold nuggets. I got like really good. It's like a muscle. When you go to the gym, you work out, you get stronger. That's the thing. But in terms of people, let's say, who are like me, have literally zero land, zero knowledge, zero experience, guess what? There's YouTube, there's internet. You can watch so many amazing videos and start learning. That's the best thing. So if you think about it, you have to ask yourself, all right, I'm in my room or whatever where you are. From my position, what can I do to make what I want happen? And I start asking yourself, what can I actually do? That's a really important question because then you'll start to actually see opportunities that have been there this whole time. You just never thought of it because you never thought it could be possible or even approachable.
Hey,
But what I like about it,
you've done a
yeah.
lot of germination testing too on the seeds that you've been gathering and saving
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
distributing. Because like that's another time-consuming fiddly function that a lot of growers, they're spending so much time like weeding and planting and harvesting and selecting that
Hmm.
they don't have a lot of time left over to assess the quality of the seeds that they're saving. They just kind of wing it.
Weeding.
But if you start sharing that seed with other people, it's nice knowing that it's got a relatively acceptable
Mhm.
germination level. So yeah, I
There's
could
actually
almost.
a very interesting thing about germination, Shane. In
Mm,
terms of a lot of seeds, we plant them and like they don't do nothing.
mm,
Ah, I forgot about them. Okay, I passed them off. They don't germinate. And then a few weeks later, oh, what's this weird plant? Oh, right, it's that seed I planted like 2 months ago. You
mm,
finally sprouted. There's a lot of seeds that work that way. And then you have to rethink about that scenario again with that 1,000-year-old or I mean 2,000-year-old date seed.
mm-hmm.
How in the world did that germinate? It's amazing. So when people think about, oh man, these seeds are too old or they don't pass a good germination test, really check them out. I've
Mm,
noticed with a lot of squash, the seeds that won't germinate are like they're thin. They don't have a seed inside their seed, if that makes
yeah,
sense. The
yeah,
seed code it just is an empty seed. The
just a
best way to
blank.
save seeds, the best ones that come from the best seed, the most quality, is from fully ripe fruits, almost over mature. You can
Mm.
get those seeds. Those are going to be probably the best seeds you got.
Yeah, I definitely
Oh,
wonder if there's a role for people in similar
mhm.
positions to you to get involved with the quality assurance and distribution of seed from other amateur growers, like set up a little seed saving and swapping network and
Maybe.
help get it. And
Mhm.
probably that would be a way to make connections with people in your neighborhood who do have land. They might have more land than they know what to do with, and you might
Maybe.
be able
I
to get
wish
your
to
shovel in the
find those
ground
kind
that
of
way. Yeah.
I really wish to find those kind of people, but like those kind of people, they don't either exist or I just couldn't find them.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
damn, it would have been so cool. There was like a neighbor who had land and like didn't need it, and I just talked with them, form a friend. But everyone's kind of antisocial. Everyone's shy as fuck. I'm like,
Yeah.
damn, that's sad. There could have been an opportunity here, but oh well. Your loss, my loss.
I'm
But I'm gonna
hopeful
keep it.
that they're still out there and that you'll stumble on them through what you're doing.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, thanks to the Going to Seed website, that whole organization, I've stumbled upon a lot of amazing people. That's actually how I found you.
Now you're also sharing the amazing information that you're finding. I'm sure it was you that sent
Mhm.
me a paper about rapid generation turnover techniques for crop breeding. Was that you? I'm sure that was you.
Might have been. There's a lot of research. I remember
Um,
I sent you how many phylogenetic trees of the crops breeding and just thinking about what if you cross that one? What if you cross this one? What do you think's gonna happen? It's
but
just so fun.
I wanted to talk about that particular paper because it's basically a way of setting up a. It's not exactly a tissue culture lab; it's a controlled environment. So you have a little chamber with controlled humidity and lighting and temperature. And for compatible crops under the right conditions, you can get them to produce seed at a really small size. So
Oh,
you can take a crop
I,
like quinoa that you normally grow once or maybe twice a year if you're in a really good climate, and you can actually
speed breeding.
turn over like 6 to 8 generations a year.
Yeah, that was definitely me when I introduced to you about speed breeding. It's
Mm.
actually funny. The university who came up with that idea came from Australia. There's like a
Ah.
whole speed breeding group. Yeah, it was absolutely awesome. And I found it through YouTube. I was just wondering, okay, let's see, breeding, quinoa breeding, or grain breeding, wheat breeding. I was like, oh, what's this video? Speed breeding? What are you talking about? And I clicked on it. I'm like, oh, wait, hold on. Because the problem with a lot of plant breeders, yeah, you have like 10 or 8 years for like some of the tree crops to breed. Or, they take a long time to select all the traits. You can
Mm.
speed breed, you can pump out like multiple generations. That's awesome. And then I learned something completely amazing in there. Believe it or not, what speed breeders basically do in a nutshell, like majority of the day, 22 hours sunlight in like a greenhouse, and then 2 hours off. You do
Mm.
that, it speeds up the growth of the plant. This is why in like Alaska, the vegetables are like monsters. Because in the summer, they got like 21 hours, like 20 hours of sunlight. And like,
Mm.
oh man, that's why they grow big. But here's the thing, there's a lot of plants, they actually trigger their flowering when the days get shorter. I've noticed a
Mm.
lot of wild edibles like shishu, lamb squatters, they do all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's where one thing connects to another thing. And what
Mm.
those speed breeders did is they turn off the lights one day, triggering that flower of the short day plants, which basically when the short days get shorter is when it triggers them to flower. And
Mm.
boom, what happened? All the plants that are started getting short days, as almost as if you were stimulating fall again,
Mm.
the fall sign thing, and boom, and you're able to get so many seeds that way. I was hoping to try to do something like that. I mean, I have like a little tiny pot on my windowsill, and I got quinoa seeds out of that, and like well, lamb quarter seeds, which is another relative of quinoa.
My gut feeling is that this speed breeding idea would work for someone who has probably a few square meters to set up a
Mm-hmm.
chamber, and it would cost a bit of money, like artificial lighting and heating and all of this.
LED lights, they even use lasers. And
Yeah.
the speed breeding people are talking about like making an off-grid kind of speed breeding station.
Oh yeah,
They
that
haven't really
they could
found.
move around. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
If you could do that, that'd be awesome.
and pro
Unfortunately, in my apartment, I just don't have enough space for those kind of
Yeah.
things.
It's not going to be for everyone, but for some people who don't have a garden, but they do have a little bit of space and money and a lot of enthusiasm, that's the kind of thing they could consider setting up, like a little controlled environment greenhouse to do techniques like speed breeding. And
Most
there's
definitely.
not all crops are compatible with that technique, but there's quite a lot, and they're important crops too. Potentially,
Yeah.
you could breed medicinal plants that way too, if you can evaluate the seedlings by their flavor, for example.
Yeah, flavors, and if you're a crazy mad scientist, even dissect all the chemicals that went into the leaf that gives it the medicinal properties in the first place. Oh,
Yeah,
did you hear Shane about there's no such thing as a poisonous plant or an edible plant. It's all on a spectrum. Like the
mm,
same thing that has the medicinal properties is also like the poison. I think I forgot exactly. There was like a Native American who said it's like it's the dosage that determines the poison, the
yeah,
toxin.
yeah.
Ah,
And you've expressed some interest in the technique of mentor grafting as well. And I wonder if that could be compatible with a small home controlled growing space as well, because it's a
absolutely.
very fiddly technique. And most people who have like a large garden don't have time and energy left over to like sit there with razor blades and controlled humidity cribs to like get through that early stage of mental grafting.
Absolutely. If you think about it, large gardeners, large acres, the human element is stretched thin. That's why he
Hmm.
can't concentrate on each plant. He's got to think about the bigger system. A small landowner, very, very small landowner, he has very few plants. He can spend a lot more time on each plant, which is why mentor grafting is perfect for those kind of people. Actually, Michuden was actually talking about that. The guy who introduced me to mentor grafting, he's an old, epic, legendary Russian plant breeder guy. Damn, he's made some awesome hybrids like Sorbia aronia. Sorbia hybridized with aronia thanks to mentor grafting, which helped in that hybridization.
Mm,
Regardless, he was actually talking about how, let's say someone doesn't have a super large orchard, with the mentor grafting, you could actually influence a lot of things. It's crazy how this works. For people who don't understand how mentor grafting works, you think, oh, okay, hold on. Grafting, that's not sexual hybridization. That's not actually formed seeds. Yes, true. But however, if you graft, the seeds inside the next fruit will actually have a little bit of influenced genetics.
mm,
Basically, how it works is a very young hybrid seed. Let's say you hybridize two varieties. And the more distant, the more highly plastic and receptive the little seedling is. So let's say a 1 year old tree, right? You take that and you graft the 1 year old scion onto a mature tree. Guess what the mature tree is going to do to the little hybrid scion that you've grafted it onto? It's going to influence, it's going to dominate the genetics of that small little scion.
mm.
So basically, it's going to impart its influence. The more mature the tree is, the rootstock, and the more younger the scion is, the more hybrid younger it is. We're talking about hybrid. So the larger genetic diversity that came from the hybridization. If you do that, the genetics of the mature stock influence the seeds that are inside the hybrid scion. So if you take those seeds, you'll start to notice that a lot of traits that came from the mature tree. It's almost like you are literally mentoring your young hybrids with a tree that is mature and that you already like. Just think about how awesome that is.
And it's
You
worth
have a really
it's worth
yeah,
pointing out that there's been Chinese research groups that have studied this phenomenon, and they have detected heritable genetic elements from the rootstock that end up in the nucleus or the organelles of the scion,
yeah,
and then end up in the seeds of the scion if you can get it to maturity.
yeah,
So it's a form of horizontal gene transfer. It's not like
absolutely.
it's not like CRISPR where you're picking just one gene that you know it has a trait that you want to put in the recipient
Mhm.
plant, but you're sampling all of the genes in the rootstock to potentially change the traits of the scion. And it's low tech. Anyone can do it just with a grow chamber and a good blade for doing grafting.
I'm just so thankful to those modern Chinese researchers because they're bringing that old awesome technique that everyone kind of dismisses like, not good.
Mm.
But now it's actually getting the research it deserves and appreciates. And I'm so thankful for those Chinese researchers who actually brought it up onto modern light, modern research. So thankful to those guys.
Well, it's also the kind of technique where the exact way that it's done and the limits of what you can do with it aren't really known. Like it's a very new idea. So any amateur could spend a few years tinkering around with this and stumble onto something completely unexpected. The wide
And
hybridization that has been done in China is really amazing too. Grafting together a scion and a rootstock from completely different plant families has been
that is
found to
like
be possible.
legendary.
Yeah, yeah,
That is
particularly
legendary.
if the scion that you're grafting is a very freshly germinated seedling, it doesn't seem to know its identity isn't quite as well established. It's more flexible in what it can do.
So it's like stem cells for plants. The younger the hybrid, the it basically it is because the cell has not been
Hmm?
differentiated yet.
Yeah, yeah,
But the
yeah,
sapling hasn't been differentiated yet. That's so fascinating.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Ah,
if you used like a lot of the Chinese papers on this wide grafting, they use like sweet potato tubers as the rootstock. And you could potentially do this without even soil. If you're worried about spilling dirt on your carpet, you could just buy sweet potato tubers, let them sprout, and then graft all sorts of recently germinated seedlings onto the shoots, and then see where that takes you.
man, that might actually be able to do that because I actually like had some sweet potatoes I got from the food bank that started sprouting. I'm thinking maybe I could have done that actually. Now you gave me an idea. Thank you, Shane. I might actually play around with that a bit. But there's also a technique to grafting because
Yes,
you have to
there's a
align the
feel
cells.
to it. There's a feel to it, and you
Mhm,
have to expect to like do it wrong many times before you kind
mhm,
of start to get the feedback from the seedlings that do take and start to grow.
mhm, mhm. It's a skill. It absolutely is a skill.
And the sooner you start practicing it, the sooner you'll get better at it.
Absolutely. I tried grafting with like plastic tape. do different raspberries. Blackberry on the black raspberry onto a wineberry. It died because the plastic was choking and there was no breathable space to it. But that was my best attempt at grafting with
Oh,
the resources I have.
the only time I've seen anyone get grafting right the first time
Mhm.
is when they have somebody who has mastered that technique right beside them, watching them do it, and that when
Mm,
the way they handle things isn't quite right, they can get that immediate guidance about how to adjust their
mhm.
technique. And even then, they might only have like a 50-50 chance of getting each graft right the first time. So yeah,
Mhm.
you have to have that attitude of persistence and expecting that you're going to hit a lot of mistakes along the way.
That's why I'm so thankful for people who have already done it. Like I'm
Mm.
so thankful they exist. We get to learn from them. All we have to do is just humble our prideful ass and just go to them, learn from them. Like they have all the awesome things. Ah man.
Now,
Mhm.
my favorite question I love to ask my guests, if you could wave a magic wand and create any crop, what would you kind of will into existence?
Ooh. Oh man, it's hard for me to answer that question. There's so many different crops. My favorite crop to me is persimmons. And if I could wave a magic wand, I'd love to get huge watermelon-sized persimmon fruits that are soft and just filled with sugar. You know how the American persimmons, they're soft and you can just eat
Mm,
them? Imagine the watermelon-sized fruit of that hanging on trees. I want to recreate what I dreamed about. I dreamed about watermelon-sized huge squash-sized persimmon fruits. I want to bring that into reality from my dream. I dreamed about plants. That's how much I learned.
well, I mean that
Yeah.
genus Diospyros is huge. Like it's all over the world, and there's so much diversity in it.
Uh-huh.
And there's evidence of hybridization, like the Asian and the American persimmons have been
Mhm,
crossed,
mhm.
and there's some interesting
Ooh,
cultivars that have come out of that. It
mhm.
feels like it has more potential than apples, but the breeding work hasn't happened yet.
Maybe. If you think about Diospyros, I mean, it's all like one genus, right? But there's
Hmm.
so many different diversities that it's almost like there's many genuses within that genus, like a subgenus. When
Mm,
we look at apples, Malus, for example, they're all part of the pome tribe. Pears, hawthorns, amelanchiers, sorbas, they're all pome fruits. And guess what? Michoudin has proved that you can actually cross pome fruits. So
mm,
theoretically, all of the pome fruits, all of the genera, not generis, there's no plural such thing, but all of the genera of pome fruits, the Malay tribe, all of that's theoretically crossable. That blows
mm.
my mind because now you can get apple pear hybrids or amelanchier pear hybrids. I wanted to make the amelanchier fruits bigger. I can do that with pear genetics, Asian pear genetics. Mwah! Now, if we bring that back to Diospyros, specifically you're mentioning the Japanese and the Americans, persimmons hybridizing, Diospyros virginiana and Diospyros kaki. Those
Mm,
two can actually hybridize because they all both belong to the orange persimmon group, along with Diospyros lotus. Those are all orange persimmons that are cold hardy, somewhat
mm.
relatively compared to all the other Diospyros species. So yeah, they all actually phylogenetically form a close like section. They're all phylogenetically close together, which explains why they can actually hybridize just like that, which is amazing.
But you never know the limits until you try. So
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
that's the big unanswered question. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Every time like someone tells me it's like, "Oh, can this hybridize with this?" I'm like, "Probably not, but if you manage to do it, you deserve a scientific achievement award for that. Like if you manage to." I don't want to like stop anybody. I don't want to dampen anybody from what the hybrid potentials are because it really are limitless
Mm.
if you think about it.
And
It's just
there's a lot of tricks you can pull that are very simple to
mhm, mhm.
overcome fertility barriers between species.
There's just two questions you got to ask yourself. Is it a crop that I love and I believe and I can do it?
Mm.
And the other thing, is it worth your time? Because
Hmm.
that's the thing. There's a lot of things that you could potentially cross hybridize, but you only have so many days in life, so much time in life. So you got to prioritize the ones that you really love.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the thing.
Okay, let's
So
wrap
that's why it's
up.
good.
Let's wrap up with the final questions. So,
Ooh.
what is your vision for the future of food in your community?
I don't feel like I even have much of a community around here, honestly. It's all suburban HOA Karens and shit. Not the kind of demographic I want to hang out with. But that doesn't matter because of the internet and going to seed. That's
Mm,
my community right there. My
yeah.
local community, sleeping, not ignoring, doesn't care about this shit. But the internet actually unlocked me different kinds of communities. So what I can do to my community, which is the going to see community, is trade, talk, trade research, cross-pollinate ideas of different potentials. I do that all the time and trade different seeds. I live in North America where I have these kind of wild edibles access to. Oh, there's people on that forum who really want some wild edible seeds. Boom, I can harvest those wild edible seeds and give it to them. That is how I can actually bring back to my community. I
Mm.
really wish my local community was that fascinating and awesome, but not. They just not. They just not. It's sad though, but it's okay. It's not too much of a loss thanks to the internet. And thanks to you as well. You're also part of the community, Shane.
Brilliant. Well, I appreciate that. Do you have any suggestions of other people I should try to interview?
Ooh, I wish you could interview Michigan, but he's already been long dead. That would have been super awesome.
Get the Ouija
Yeah.
board out.
Oh no. That's gonna be dark, bro. Thankfully, we don't have to because he left so much research behind for us to talk about. But in
Mm.
terms of other people to interview, I think you should. I don't know if you can somehow find those wild edible food experts to interview, but Green Dean, Green who at eattheweeds.com, Green Dean
Hmm.
at
Hmm.
eattheweeds.com, he's a fantastic, epic, legendary resource of wild edibles. He's definitely someone to definitely talk about. Because if you think about wild edibles, permaculture, plant breeding, those are all perspectives, different sides of the same thing.
Yeah.
Goal.
Yep.
What's the goal? More food, more awesome things from plants. That's the goal. So I definitely think you should interview some like wild edible type of people. And if you could somehow interview Samuel Thayer, he has been on some podcasts, so maybe it won't be that hard to approach. That could be
Hmm.
someone you definitely interview. And Joseph Lofthouse, which actually that right there is awesome. Yeah.
I'll definitely have
Ooh,
Joseph on the podcast in the future
I
if I
hope.
can pin him down.
Yeah, hopefully.
Now,
But those are all the people I can think about.
that consider them all on my list. They're all great suggestions. So
Mm.
if people want to learn more about what you're doing or get in touch, what's the best channel for them to try?
Well, I've made a YouTube channel, but I haven't really done much with it. So that's there. I guess I can throw
Hmm.
that out. Professor Porcupine YouTube.
Hmm.
That's there. But I'm mostly just spending my time on the Going to Seed forums. So if you go to
Mm.
goingtoseed.com and go to the forums, you'll see Professor Porcupine making posts all about it, different kinds of things. And I actually made a post of all the seeds I've actually obtained with beautiful photos that I took from the grocery stores and wild foraging. Basically, my entire seed list of all the seeds I have enough to actually trade and share. I've made a post on that and Going to Seed forums. Maybe you could like link that or something. I don't know,
Absolutely.
but
It's
that'd
an
be really
epic
awesome.
list. It's an epic list.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, what is your final message for people who are thinking of getting into all of the things we've been talking about today?
Well, you can just take my perspective from whatever position you are in life. Just really ask yourself, what can you actually do? Meditate on it and really think about like what can you actually do from your position. Sometimes I've kind of also realized in life, sometimes you don't have access to certain things. There could be a good reason why you don't have it. You might not be ready. Like for example, I'm thinking about, oh, I don't have access to land. Maybe that's a good thing because without having access to land, I would have never bothered researching so much about plants. That would have never happened. I would have
Mm,
just been with land.
mm.
So that's my final message. It's like whatever position you are in life, there's something awesome you could do. Just look and try. That's it.
That is a
You
wonderful
can.
message to finish up on. So, thank you very much, Professor Porcupine, for taking the time to talk to me and the audience.
Of course. Thank you, Shane, for inviting me on over. I hope we can do more episodes because I can go all deeper about like each crop species. That would be fun.
Absolutely. I
Thank
would love to have you back in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Take care and take care, everybody.
The Zero Input Agriculture podcast is a solo passion project built with my ample time and meagre resources. If you would like to support the show, then sign up for a paid subscription to my Zero Input Agriculture blog at Substack. As a reward, you can read all my past posts and listen to the audiobook of Taming the Apocalypse. If you prefer reading about the past and future of biological technology, you can read the ebook of Taming the Apocalypse through Amazon. And finally, please rate and review the show on whatever podcast app you use, since it helps other people find me. Or recommend the show directly to anyone who could use some inspiration to become a plant breeder themselves.